Good morning, everybody. As we go to the Chitas of today, we're holding the portion of Vayera. We're holding today is Monday, the second reading in the portion of Vayera. We're holding on chapter 18, verse number 15. And Sarah denied, and she said, I did not laugh. Yarehi, because she was afraid, Vayemer, and he said to her, Loi, it's not true, you have left. Understand with all these psukim, what this pasuk means, many midrashim on this pasuk itself. Rashi says the first key yaresa, yareya. The use the word because, or gives a reason for a previous statement. Sarah denied it because she was afraid. The second key is using the but. So there you see the two ways you use the word key. Over here in this verse itself, one key is because and one key is but. And they stood up from there, and they looked over this dome. And Avram escorted them to send them on their way. Rashi says, whenever it says hashkifa in the pasuk, by hashkifu, to look down from your holy dwelling, hashkifa meim kachla, later we say, with the power of giving contribution to the poor is so great, it changes God's attributes from anger to mercy. So too, you're the opposite, hashkifa. You have hashkifa, the opposite, the Abish to look down upon them, or the Abish to look down upon the Jewish people, he blesses them. The shalcham, to escort them on their way. One of the things that is obligation, and we learn from Avram Avinu, is that he escorted his guests. Whenever the guests came to him, he escorted them to the door. So too over here, he escorted. There's a mitzvah of escorting somebody when they come to your house. And God said, should I hide from Avram? What I'm going to do? She says, a machase is a question, bitmia. Ashani Oisa, what I'm going to do, what am I going to do? Bizdaim. What I'm going to do in Zdaim. It's not fitting for me to do this without his knowledge. I gave him this land, so the 5 cities are his. As it says, the Canaanites' border was from Zdaim, towards Zdaim Gemara. I called him Avraham, he's the father of multitudes of nations, so that I know that destroying the children without informing the father who loves me. So how's it possible I wouldn't tell him what I'm going to do? Avram is and will be a great nation, a mighty nation. And all the nations of the land will be blessed in him. As she says, the Agada explained, you look in the Agada, it explains that the mention of a righteous person is for blessing. Meaning that since he blessed him because he's he'll be a great nation. The straightforward meaning, that's why over here it mentions, and it blesses Avram Avinu. But the straightforward meaning is, since should I hide from him, being that he's so beloved to me, has become a great nation, and that all the nations of the world will be blessed through him. So therefore, should I not tell him exactly what I'm going to do? Because I know I know that I cherish him, because I know that he will instruct his children and his household after him. And they're going to watch the way of God, last days mishpat, to do charity and righteousness. The man Havi Hashem al Avram, that God would bring to Abraham, Kol asher diber, all of everything that he said upon him. Now she says, Ki adaitiv, for I know him. This is an expression of affection. They find in the relative Maidah to a husband, Boyaz Maidatanu, you're known to us. I've granted your recognition. So when you say somebody, I know somebody, it shows on the concept of endearment. However, the principal meaning of these terms is indeed from the word yediyah, knowledge, for someone who has an affection for a person brings him close and thus knows him and is familiar with him. And this is why I hold him dear. Why do I hold Avraham Avinu dear? Because I know that he's going to command his children. It's not only about him; it's about the future. I know that he's going to make sure to keep it going, so to say, with his family. But if I explain this phrase according to the Unkel's translation, I know him that he will instruct his sons. Then the word laman does not fit because it's the laman that he is already. Yitzhava, Lashon he will instruct. This word here in the continuous present tense. So Job will yasa, will do. Laman havi, that is what he instructed his children. Keep the way of God, so that God may fulfill to Abraham. He does not say here for the house of Abraham, but for Abraham, for which we learn whoever raises a righteous son is considered as if he never died, because his son continues in the footsteps of their father. So God said, the outcry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great. And their sins, their sins are very grave. Now she says, thus he did, as he had said, that he would not hide, and he would tell Avraham Avinu what he's going to do. Iraba, whatever occurs in the Torah, this accent of the last syllable, bays, on the bays, there's a dot in the bays, because the translation that's great, becoming great. But this word is connected to the first syllable, the resh, because the translation has become great, which is the same way as explained, the son had ba'ah. So this is not something new. So the Abish says this has become great in the past. It's not something that happened a day ago. If I went down and I saw that all the screaming that I've heard, pain and suffering that people are having in the city of Sodom, also kala, as the outcry came to, I will annihilate them. And if not, I will know. So Rashi says, what is over here? Calling me the Abish says, let me go down, like he has to go and investigate. Therefore, this in general teaches how to judge a case. This teaches judges not to give rulings in a case involved capital punishment without a visual knowledge. Thus, as explained the passages of dispersion. Another explanation is, I will consider now the ends of their deeds. So that's the word erdana. Erdana will go down to the depths of the situation. Not that God has to go and find out. Abalai, that who came to me and I have actually done, and they maintain their rebelliousness, I will annihilate them. But if they do tshuva, then I will know that what to do. I punish them with suffering, but I will not annihilate them. We find a similar phrase elsewhere, and will now remove your jewelry from yourselves, and I will know what to do with you. So we find that later on in the story of the golden calf, where Moshe Rabbeinu says, "Take off all this gold, and then we'll decide what's going to happen. First, get rid of your negative." This reason is a separation in the psik between the grammar between kala and asur, to separate one word from another word. Our rabbis explain hakatzakasa, her cry. Hatzakasa is a particular cry, the cry of a girl. It's a feminine. The Abish said, I heard a certain cry of a girl. And this was the Medrash says, the story that happened, that this girl, the cry of a young girl who they put to death in an unnatural way. What they did was, what she did was she gave money, she helped a poor person. And the Medrash says they covered her with honey, and they let bees and hornets kill her and bite her up, and she died through that pain. So the Ebishah Katzakasa, I heard this girl's cry, and that pierced my ears, so to say. when I heard her cry with her pain, what these people, this city did, now I have no choice. And the men left from there, they went to Sdom. And Avram was still standing there. Not just from the place Avram accompanied them. Avram was still standing there, but surely it's not Avram who was gone to stand before him, but rather the Holy One, blessed be He, came to him and told him that cry of Sdom and Gomorrah have become great. It should therefore have written God was still standing before him. Yeah, but it's, however, an adjustment such as the writer makes to avoid irrelevant expression. That's the expression, even though you read it's written one way. Avram means the Abish was standing, really came to Abraham, standing before Abraham. Yigash Avram, and Avram figuratively came forward. And he turned to God and he said, "You're going to destroy a city, so are you going to destroy the righteous and the wicked together?" As she said, we find the verb vayigash used in drawing near to wage war. Yaakov vayigash, to wage war. Aram. The purpose of appeasement. Yehuda vayigash. Yehuda came close to Yosef. Eliyahu, the prophet, stepped forward. Vayigash. God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel. Abraham prepared himself for all these methods, speaking severely, appeasement, and prayer. So Vayigash means he prepared himself for what he's going to do. Just didn't blurt out what he's going to do. He had a plan. Half despair. Would you destroy? But Onkelos translate who translate af in the sense of anger. This to me, according to Onkelos, meaning would be: would your anger induce you to obliterate the righteous along with the wicked? So your anger has no limits. What happens to the 50 righteous people in the city? Af tispa, you're going to destroy them all. And you will not spare the city, the 50 righteous people that are in it. Why did he pick 50? And Rashi says he picked 10 for each city. But there were 5 local localities involved in Sdom. So the Sdom was divided into 5 different what we call over here, different communities, different locales, different parts of the city, different boroughs. And he said will be 10 for each. It's sacrilegious. It's Chalila, it's Chil Hashem from doing this. Laham is tzaddik and rasha, to kill the righteous and the wicked. And the righteous will be like the wicked. It's not that it's a disgrace to God if the God of the world would judge surely fairly. Rashi says, if you say that the righteous cannot save the wicked, why then kill the righteous? That's the deciding. First of all, I'm asking that the 50 righteous should forgive the entire community. But for surely the 50 righteous should not be destroyed. Chalila means that's what it's called. It's the expression is sacrilegious. Chil Hashem. Chil Hashem. Moshe Rabbeinu said the same expression. People will say, this is a method. He sweeps away everyone, the righteous and the wicked. This is what you did to the generation of flood and to the generation of dispersion. Adava Azeh, not this nor anything else like this. Even the world to come. Hashefet kol haaretz. Hashefet is vocalized with a patav, indicating a question. Can it be that he who judges the whole world would not carry out true justice? That's pretty rough. God said, okay, If I find 50 righteous people, in this time, and I'll spare the entire air for their sake. She says, all the cities, since Daim was a metropolis, the most important of all the cities, that's why it designates it specifically as the capital of these 5 boroughs. Ayana, you should realize that as Avraham Avinu goes lower and lower, the power of the individual. This was a metropolis. I don't know how many people lived there, thousands upon thousands of people. And the Eibishter said for 10 people, for each borough, 10 people, I'm going to forgive the whole people. I'm going to forgive the whole city. Yan Avram and Avram said in the I have begun to speak to God because I have been reduced. But as you know, I'm but dust and ashes. Means Rashi says means that I would have already been reduced to dust by the kings and ashes by Nimrod, if not for your mercy that you had upon me. Alta, what means I've commenced, I've been willing, like Moshe says later, Vayal Moshe. Verse 28, Ula Yachsan Chamisha Tzadikim Chamisha. Taksha Bashir Miskal here. What if there's 5 are missing from the 50? The righteous people. Will you destroy the whole city? He said, even if take out 5, and now you have 9 in each city, I will still not destroy it. If I find 45. She said there will remain 9 in each city, and then you have you, God. You're the righteous one of the universe. We adjourn them, and you make up 10. So now you got it down to 45. He continued. What happens if we find 40? I won't do it for 40. She says, how do you get the number 40? And thus 4 cities would be saved, similar to 30 righteous people would have saved these 3 cities. 20 would save 2, and 10 would save 1. That was his thing. Said, okay, we'll go down to 4 cities. 10 in each city, 4 cities. Now we'll go down to 2 cities. What happens if you find 30? He said, if I find 30, I won't. What happens if you find 20? I will destroy them for the 20. Ash says again, this Hayalte is what Moshe Rabbeinu did later. We said, Vayoel Moshe. Let God get angry. And let me just speak one more time. What happens if you find only 10 people in one city? I won't destroy them. Why do you stop? Not plead for smaller than number. He said in the generation of flood there was 8 righteous people. Noach, 3 sons, and their wives. So there was 8 people. And yet did not save the generation. And for 9 making 10 through God joining them, already pleaded, but God did not find the number of righteous people. And he understood he can't go lower. God, so to say, departed after Avram stopped his negotiations. Avram shav l'mekaymei, and Avram went home. Once the defense counsel, Rashi says, became silent, the judge departed. Which is a big question. Why did he stop? Even he shouldn't have learned. Should he have learned for the flood? This is the major if. Once the judge has left, the defense counsel has left. Prosecutor carries out his actions. And therefore, the 2 angels arrived in Sodom the next part of the Torah, he destroys them. And that completes the Chumash for today. We now go to the Tanya of the day. We start the 27th letter of Tanya. Slowly coming to the conclusion of the whole book. Alter Rebbe wrote this letter of condolence to the Chassidim, to his Chassidim in 1788. The passing of his colleague. This is a very famous letter that he wrote in the saintly Mendel of Vitebsk. This was a Jew that the Alter Rebbe, Mendel, he felt he was not his colleague, he felt he was his Rebbe. After the passing of the Maggid, and then the Alter Rebbe supported him his whole life in Israel. The Alter Rebbe collected all the letters that he was collecting money was for Mendel and his group that went to Eretz Yisrael. We said in the land of Israel in 1777. So he lived in Israel over 10 years before he passed away. It concludes by arousing them the mitzvah of tzedakah in general, in particular, and maintaining the family of Rav Mendel had a daughter. The Alter Rebbe wanted that even though Rav Mendel passed away, but they should consider as he's still around. The Alter Rebbe here addresses a Chassidim who in the past had benefited from their connection with the tzaddik, both through his advice and blessings on material matters and through his guidance in matters of spirit. And he came to imagine the Chassidim, just was not a very big group. The group that was he could go visit his gravesite, it's in Tveria. So, group that lived there, so it was a small group, and when he passed away, it must have been a traumatic time for the Jews that lived with him. He comforted them, therefore, with the teachings of the Zohar, that tzaddik is to be found in this world after his passing to a greater extent than while he's physically alive. And he told them that you don't have to be so sad because Rav Mendel is with you, because Rav Mendel's teachings has not disappeared, and what Rav Mendel stood for continues to live on, maybe even greater than when he was alive. That's famous, this letter. His disciples are thus able to receive his guidance in their Torah study and divine service to even a greater degree than before when he was alive. Clearly, too, the tzaddik protects this world after passing even more effectively than he did during his lifetime. So this is a famous letter, the 27th letter of the Alter Rebbe. And this letter was written by the Alter Rebbe to the Chassidim who live in the land of Israel. May it speedily be rebuilt. The Meheira b'yameinu mamish speedily in our days. The Nachem b'kaflayim l'teshia, to console them with the redoubled consolation and support. Al petiras Rav Agrein HaMefursim, on the passing of this great rabbi, known rabbi, Ish Elikim, a man of God, Kodesh, who is holy. Nei Yisrael, the candle of the Jewish nation. Amud HaYimin, who stood at the right hand of God, a patish v'chozik, a mighty hammer. Vareinu harav rabbeinu, our mentor, Menachem Mendel, of blessed men, Menachem Mendel of Vitebsk. Achai ahovai achai v'rei, my beloved, my brethren, my friends, asher kenafshi, who are like dear to me as my soul. But God, this Tanya likens the opening three terms of the address to the three spiritual scriptural terms of endearment successfully addressed by the king to his beloved daughter. The parable cited by the Medrash, my beloved, when he called her my beloved, he calls the patrilineal love expressed by the phrase my daughter, my brethren, my daughter. My brethren recalls the fraternal love expressed by the phrase my sister, my friend. Recalls the final love expressed by the phrase my mother. Further phrase as my soul indicates that the love that one has for his own life. As the phrase of the Zohar called her my own name. While so forth indicates the love even greater, a bond with the ultimate soul, the Yechidah Shebenefesh. Chulu kenafshi. Kenafshi asa oivai, my beloved, achai, my brother, rei, my friend, asher kenafshi, who you are like my soul, chulu, etc., even greater than my soul. There you have the 5 levels of the soul. Alter Rebbe said, my soul is connected to you in all 5 levels. Hashem aleim yichyu. May the name of God be upon you, Chaim, for life, ad olam, forever. Again, according to the above interpretation, look at that God, the Alter Rebbe, bless them. The name of God be upon you is intended to elicit the transcendent mode of divine benevolence upon the blessing, while the blessing may you live forever is intended to draw this transcendent benevolence that can be internalized within the finite recipient. Or in the terms of Chassidus, is intended to be mamshich, the makif, into a pnimi. Alter Rebbe wanted to take the soup, the transcendental godliness, that transcendental love, and to bring it down into a finite, into a physical love. And your children with you, the seed of truth. Ruchi Hashem, Hema. May you be blessed by God. May Atav Adelam forever. Achadish Shlema. First, I duly require upon their welfare and those who love God's name. I now come to speak to the hearts of the broken, smitten, and Nachim, who sigh and are groaning. The Nachlam, the Klayim of the Shia, over the passing of Rab Mendel, and to console you with the redoubled support. With my ears I've heard from others, and with what I have understood myself. We find a statement of the sages about a tzaddik, the Shavak Chaim L'chol Chai. He has left life for all the living. That's the expression in the Zohar. The simple meaning that others have remained alive while he's passing. What are we to make of the expression left life? Did he leave them life? Surely the life that they're living is their own. So it means he left them life. Shavik Chaim. That tzaddik leaves life. What does that mean? Alter Rebbe will explain below that idiom means quite literally that the tzaddik left something of his own life for others. Why? For a core, the true core of a tzaddik's life is not a physical life. Then how does he leave it? Rather, it's comprised of a spiritual quality of faith, awe, and love of God. That's the true life of a tzaddik. His faith, his awe, and his love. The tzaddik departs from the world. He leaves his faith. He doesn't take it with him. He leaves his fear of God, and he lives of his love to all those who are bound with him, so that they will be able to receive even more than they received from him while he was alive in the physical life together with them. That's the beauty of this concept. Shavik Chai. The tzaddik actually leaves something in this world. All 3 qualities are alluded to the life and the concept. 3 things: faith, awe, and love is the life of a tzaddik. In the verse enumerated below, where the Torah says, "Ki tzaddik be'emunasei yichne," the tzaddik lives with his faith. That's his life. Or it says in the pasuk, "Ubeyiras Hashem l'chaim," and the awe of God, which leads to life. That's the life of a tzaddik. Awe of God. Uberish be'esh levis avosim l'chaim, and from the flesh of his fiery spark of his love for God, that he's even greater than life. So therefore, you see these 3 expressions. Now, what is the true chayim of a righteous person? Is emunas Hashem, his belief in God, his fear of God, his awesomeness of God, his humility, and his love of God. And that with the meaning of the Zohar. The Shavik Chayim L'chol Chai, that he leaves life to all the living. That's what he leaves them. He leaves them his emunah. He leaves them his yira, his awe, his humility, and he leaves them his love. Investing in them in his faith and his awe and love, the life of his spirit. Some people say the expression over here is neshama, is so call you may chedle throughout his entire life. As Alter Rebbe would say, disciples receive their influence from the soul level of tzaddik, which is called ruach. In addition, it's explained in Likutei Agados, those disciples are also as close as children. Again, as the Alter Rebbe is saying, that it all depends how close you are to the tzaddik. Do you feel like a child? No, the Alter Rebbe used to call the Baal Shem Tov his Zayda. He was not his Zayda, but he felt this closeness. That he felt that Baal Shem Tov was so close to him. He's like a grandfather, and therefore he received everything from him. And therefore you're close that you can even receive another shav of the tzaddik. When the time of his passing, God actually elevates his spirit. And he gathers up his soul unto himself. And he descends from one elevation to the next, to the highest levels in Gan Eden. But nevertheless, he then leaves over the life of his ruach. What is his ruach? Spirit. The deeds in which he formerly labored with Israel, meaning faith, fear, and love, which you draw down to them from his spirit. On a little level, the Hebrew word for lifnim, translated over here formerly, can also be understood to mean inwards, pneumius. The tzaddik infused and integrated his faith, fear, and love into the innermost core of his disciple, of his chassid, of those that are close to him. They became one in a way. Pula tzaddikim, and therefore the labor of a tzaddik is l'chaim, the verse says. The labor of a tzaddik is l'chaim, is for life. Well, less literally, the tzaddik's labor is for the living, you can say, to provide them with life. At any rate, at the time of his passing of a tzaddik, the tzaddik bequeathed the fruit of his lifelong labors, l'kol chai, to everybody, to all those that are alive. In nefesh l'kol chai, which is the simple soul of everyone who lives in a life of Torah mitzvahs. Akshura, but you have to be bond. B'nafshi b'chevle avos avad abbas v'avas elam, but you need to be bond with the tzaddik. You need to be bond to his soul, where the thick ropes of unbelievable, magnanimous love, avarabba, great love, v'avas elam, and an eternal love. Ba'altimai till netzach, they'll never move forever. If you are connected to a tzaddik, you should never disconnect yourself from a tzaddik. For any man who's eager to desire life, healthy life, the dafka b'avayachayim, to cleave to the God, the living God. Through his service, through the divine service of the tzaddik, his soul will cleave. And it will be bond, the bond of life, which is God. In the life of the spirit, little life-giving breath in our nostrils. Which we all said, in its protective shadow, we shall live amongst the nations. This alludes to the chaya of the tzaddik, the soul level, which is even loftier than the soul level called neshama. Nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya. Right? Because we have the 5 levels of the soul. First level going from down is nefesh. Ruach, which we mentioned, the spirit of the neshama. And then you have the chai of the neshama, the life of the soul, which infuses followers of the tzaddik with a transcending mode of life force, which enables them to withstand the challenges from the non-Jewish unholy sources. It's self-understood the Jewish people at that time in Eretz Yisrael had a lot to deal with over there. So he said you should connect not only to the nefesh of the tzaddik, you have the capability to connect to the ruach, the spirit of the tzaddik. Which this he left unto us to each and every individual. Corresponds to the degree of his genuine bond with the tzaddik. Yeah, it's all up to you. What is your connection to the Mendel? What is your connection to the tzaddik? The greater the connection on all levels of the soul, the greater that you're going to receive from the flow, from all levels of the soul of the tzaddik itself. From the depths of every man, from the depths of his heart. To the extent of each individual bond with the tzaddik, so the tzaddik shares with him his ruach, his faith, his fear, and love of God. And ma'im upon it was as the water, as the face, as in water face, answer to face, so the heart man to man. The individual love for a tzaddik reflects back to him, eliciting a love of the tzaddik for him. And the spirit arouses the spirit and brings forth a spirit. Meaning the spirit of love that one has for the tzaddik draws down the ruach, the spirit, the superior spirit of the tzaddik. And his spirit remains truly in our midst with those who are bound to him. When we see his children, meaning his disciples, those that go in his way, who embody the work of his hands, sanctify God's blessed name, they continue in his holy life. Ashi's Gadel v'Yiskadish, which is God's name, will become more magnified through our love of God, through the teachings of the tzaddik. Ashanela b'dera yeshara, when we walk in the straight path, Asher aranu, which this tzaddik, Ramendel, showed us, b'drachav, showed us in his own way. And we will all go and walk in the ways of a tzaddik, netzach selavod, forever. We'll always live with Ramendel Hadadaka. We'll always live with him. We will always go in his ways. God above mentioned Tyson, the Rebbe notes that the Zohar distinguishes between path, derech, and way. Nelcha bar chesov, way, oirach. Path signifies a well-trodden tract which a tzaddik had cleared for common use, while way suggests a trail that is presently being blazed according to the spiritual needs of the individual divine service. So that each and every person has their way. The Rebbe brings us down in Likutei Torah Shed Hashirim. The reason why the Alter Rebbe characterizes the tzaddik's life as consistent of faith, fear, and love is that it's explained in the very first letter. He writes, faith is the underpinning, the loin that supports the entire body of man's divine service. Faith, emunah, right? We remember that letter where the Alter Rebbe talks about emunah and the power of emunah. It's like the loins, it's like the feet, it's like the raglayim that carries the person wherever he goes. And that's really the beauty of a tzaddik, his emunah, his faith. And that's what the tzaddik continues to leave to every one of his descendants, and this to every one of his students. And this finds an expression in his fear and love of God, which is in Kabbalah, his arms. So the arms, the right and left, the right is the love of God, the left is the fear of God, and then the loins is about the emunah, which carries the love and fear of God wherever the person goes. That's the power of Emunah. That ends the Tanya of the day. It's a very powerful Tanya. Today is the 12th day of the month. And it's in Yetilim, it's chapter 66 to chapter 68. The Yom Yom, the day-to-day, the Rebbe writes today, one of the Alter Rebbe's early teachings, then it was called a Verter. Verter means a vort, like a vort, a word. Or like Verter is a plural for vort. So it was a couple of words, meaning little words, which you can really call short sayings. Alter Rebbe would say like a statement. And then people would live with that statement. They would try to translate the statement, explain the statement, what he meant with the statement, etc. Later on, after you discuss the whole story, he started to say longer Maimarim, longer interpretations. So this was his vart. He walked, so the Alter Rebbe would say everything in the Niggun, and so he walked into the Beis HaMedrash, and he said this vart, and everybody listened, then he went back to his room. Shema Yisrael. Hear, O Israel. What it means, Shema Yisrael? So when they say Shema, it means Shema is here, as in Yiddish, say derher, which means to sense. A Jewish person senses. What does he sense? What does a Jewish person sense? That Havaya Lekenu. What means Havaya Lekenu? Our strength and life is beyond nature. That's the statement. A Jewish person has an innate sense. He has a sense that his nature is above nature. That everything that he has is above nature. That's Havaya Lekenu. Havaya is Yud Kei Vav Kei, is above nature. Lekenu is within nature. So Havaya Lekenu, that within nature is really above nature. Havaya Echad. Our strength, Havaya, and everything is one. That was the vort. Self-understood. Later on, you have Maimarim and many different interpretations to what the Alter Rebbe meant. But that was the vort. When you say Shema, you should realize that you sense, Shema, you should sense that your nature is above nature and everything is God. And that completes today's learning. Together over here. I hope you continue learning. And Mitzvah, I want to wish you a good day. And Mitzvah, we'll see you all tomorrow, 8 o'clock. Continue.